Hello again, everyone. This is Jim here with a very special video update for the Beating Obesity channel. And why is it special? Well, it's a new year. It's 2019. It's January, so it's World Carnivore Month. It's also the first week of January, so it's the, let's say, a WOBO, a week of beef only, as coined by Mike from the Keto Mad channel. So, you know, it's an exciting time to be a carnivore or a meat eater like I am, and I'm participating in it, and I'm excited to participate in it today in terms of just sharing the experience with people. And Mike at Keto Mad had reached out and asked for volunteers to maybe bring an interview or an anecdote or an experience to the table. And he suggested that maybe I interview the proprietor of the local farm where I buy my meat, and I thought that was an excellent idea. So that's what I've done, and that's what today's video is. I recently interviewed Scott Hasselmann of Hasselmann Family Farm. I discovered the Hasselmann Farm about 5 months ago, and they're about 20 miles from me, and they produce, they're a farm that produces animal agriculture, and they sell directly their products to the public. Since I've been eating mostly meat, I have kind of evolved, and different things I've kind of evolved in my approach to food, and thinking about food and where our food comes from and the quality of food and things like that. And what's become more and more important to me is I think it's better that the food we eat be like locally sourced as much as possible. And so finding a local source for meat was an important goal for me, and so I'm glad to have found the Hasselmann Farm. I've been buying, I'd say, better than half of the meat I eat from them for the past 5 months or so. I like the local. I like the fact that it's local, maybe above anything else. It also tastes good, so I mean that is also important. But also, I mean, as I've made clear before, I think the diet I'm on with the mostly meat diet is, for me, it's best for my health. It's best for vitality. It's best. I mean, I've never felt better. When I say mostly meat, I try not to use the label so much like carnivore, or people think it means this or that. It doesn't. It means I eat it means what I don't eat. What I don't eat is processed food. I don't eat sugar. I don't eat grains. I really don't eat fruit and vegetables at all. I have meat, a little bit of dairy in the form of butter, or I have some heavy cream in my coffee. I have coffee. Sometimes some cheese, some eggs, but that's about it. So it's mostly meat, and that's really worked out well for me. And so I won't, you know, go on too long with this. I want to get into the interview. I went out to the Hasselmann Farm and sat down with Scott at their right in their farm store, and interviewed him and asked him everything about his farm and what he does there, and how it operates, and the history, and about how they treat animals and so forth. And I want to share that information with you because I think it's important. There's a lot of misinformation. As kind of the reason I formed this channel is I found a lot of information about weight loss, about nutrition, and about meat. I mean, there's a lot of there's a huge, what I find is what I call an anti-meat agenda, just driven in the media. So I'm doing my part to kind of say, hey, I'm not anti-meat. It works out great for me. I'm in good health. It seems to be good for the environment, and just want to bring out into the open another point of view and add my voice to the chorus of others that are out there. So without further ado, I'm going to now roll for you the interview that I had recently with Scott of the Hasselmann family farm that's in northern Illinois. Enjoy, folks. Talk to you later. Okay, hi, it's Jim here. I'm out at the Hasselmann family farm, and I have with me today a special guest, Scott Hasselmann, and he's agreed to do an interview. So Scott, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a brief overview or general description of what you do out here at Hasselmann family farm.
Okay, my name is Scott Hasselmann. Thanks so much for this interview. I'm owner, manager, operator of Hasselmann Family Farm, Inc. We are a small family farm in Marengo, Illinois, in McHenry County, Illinois, which is northeastern Illinois. And on our farm, we raise Berkshire pigs, grass-fed beef, pasture-raised poultry, and lamb. All of which we not only raise the animals here and grow much of the feed for them, we also market the animals too. So it's a full circle from birth to slaughter to the customer process on the farm. We don't, or try not to sell anything on the commodity or open market, so everything goes directly to a group of customers.
Excellent. Well, you touched on a lot in that introduction, a lot of the questions that I have. But, how long has this been in the family, this farm?
We've only been, I started this business with my wife and I started this business in 2005, getting our first animals.
Okay.
2005. My family on my grandparents' side, on my mother's side, and on my father's side were both farmers, so I have a long history of farming. But this part of the business, the meat marketing and direct marketing of meat and eggs, is something we started in 2005 or 6.
Okay, excellent. A long-time farmers, but this business since 2005.
Yep.
And what's the size of your land here?
The home farm here is 80 acres.
80 acres.
Yep, and which is not big by today's standards of most farms, but we do have some other rental pastures we use in the summer, and but the home farm is 80 acres.
Okay. I have a question. How common is it to have a small farm like yours that's an actual meat producer, supplying meat? Is that something?
That's direct marketing the meat?
Like you do, yeah.
It's not very common. It's getting more common as some farmers are seeing it as a way to traditional farmers to make income on the farm. Even farmers that grow, row crops of corn and beans, some of them do that on the side. But for a full circle farm like ours that does it full time and the scale we're at, it's not very common. Our farm would be very common of a farm in the 60s, 70s, even up into the 80s, minus the marketing part. Back then they would have been able to, they would have sold everything, take it to town and sell it. So, because they always said you could make more money walking the animals off the farm than you could selling it in a wagon load of corn or whatever. You could make more money walking it off on a hoof. So our farm is, I don't like to use the word old-fashioned, but it's similar to what a lot of farms would have looked like if you would drive around this area in the 60s. Animals outside on pasture, not confined, a diversity of crops raised and things like that. So it's not common really. It's something special. It would be really hard to replicate what we're doing.
That's why I asked the question. I had a feeling maybe this is sort of unique.
It's very unique, because not only because it's family labor, we're raising things doing things the way none of our neighbors really do it this way. So, because they're larger farmers and, you know, they're on the commodities of scale and everything like that. They have to grow large amounts because they're selling on the commodity market. So, it's not very common.
Okay.
The closest thing I could compare it to would be like a dairy farm, because at dairy farms, which there's not many of those around anymore, because of the labor intensiveness of it, there's, you know, every day, you know, 365 days a year, chores every day, and twice a day, and it's probably not as intense. It's not as intense as dairying, but comparing the labor part of it, I would compare it to a dairy farm. And
that would be the closest.
Yeah, there's still
relative.
some dairy farms around,
Sure.
but not many, unfortunately.
Okay.
Small dairy farms.
Okay. So you mentioned what you raise here. Could you repeat? I mean, what you Berkshire Pigs? Is that what?
We raise Berkshire Pigs, farrow to finish, which means birth to slaughter. So we breed all the sows here. We raise the little pigs up until they're ready to go to market weight. And we chose Berkshire many years ago. The first pigs I bought as feeder pigs were Berkshires, and I really took a liking to them because they're an old heritage breed that does really well in our outdoor farming systems. You know, we have open-ended sheds, and you know, they're out in the elements some in the winter, and they don't sunburn in the summer. And not only that, but their meat quality is excellent. They're known for different pH of the pork and really good marbling. They don't do as, fortunately, you don't get always, it's hard to get real big litters with them in numbers, but the quality of them is excellent.
I can attest to that. I've been a consumer of that pork, and it's very good. So you get the Berkshire Pigs. You also have a certain kind of hens.
We use for our laying hens. We use. We're always switching up the breeds, so we know which ones are older and younger. But we try to always use heritage breeds, like, you know, Barred Rock or Rhode Island Red, or it really varies. You know, we're all different kinds of chickens. We sell a lot of eggs. Eggs are when people really know us for our eggs and really like our eggs. So, yeah.
And in your cattle too, anything special there?
Because it's grass-fed beef, we try to use old English breeds like Hereford and Angus and Shorthorn. Those older English breeds tend to do better for grass-fed genetics and things like that. So,
do you have to consider this climate when you decide what you're going to raise here?
Sure, you sure do. That's part of the reason. Yes, that we raise Berkshires. They're pretty tough. They're pretty bulletproof, like in the weather and stuff like that. And same with the cattle. I mean, you couldn't raise Brahmas here in Illinois because they're designed for hotter weather. They've adapted for hotter weather and things like that. So, yeah, we try to, you know, we try to breed all our animals. So, we're always picking for the best, genetically trying to pick the animals that do well in our environment. So hopefully over time we just keep getting better and better. With the breeding.
Perfect, thank you. So you also you already mentioned that your pigs you breed them here. Is everything bred here, or the cattle, the hens?
Okay, yeah, we have bulls for the cows, and the chickens aren't. The chickens we buy day-old chicks.
Day-old chicks.
Yeah, and but for the beef and the pork and the lamb, yeah, we breed all our animals here. Other than we'll bring in an occasional bull or a boar to bring in new blood.
Okay.
But all the females are retained here on the farm. So.
Okay. All right. Now, when these animals are mature and ready for processing, do you do that here, or is it done on another site? Or
no, we do not do any processing here. We are not set up for that. It would be nice someday to have our own processor, but that is an enormous undertaking. So we have several custom processors we take them to.
Okay.
They're local. The beef and the pork and the lamb go to one that's about 45 miles from the farm, and the chicken goes down to central Illinois. So we have to work with. That's one of the unfortunate things about this, is there's just not a lot of processors around anymore.
Okay.
So that's one of the biggest challenges and one of our biggest expenses. It's very, very expensive to have all the animals processed. So, I mean, on a pig alone, it can be up $300 to have a pig processed.
Oh, I can well imagine.
So that's a challenge, but we're thankful we have good relationships with our processors, and we just do the best we can.
Is that anything you would ever consider getting into?
Not at the current time, just because of it would be an enormous undertaking to try to build one, unless you could find one that was going to be going out of business and you bought it or something.
Okay.
That would be the only way, and not yet. Who knows down the road? We just don't know. It would be nice because it is a huge cost, and I know some of the larger farms that do what we're doing, they do have their own processors.
Really?
Some of them have ended up buying them or starting them. And it'd be nice, but we prefer to leave that because they're professionals at that right now, and we're professionals at raising the animals and do the best we can raising the animals. Focus on that.
Focus on what you do well.
Yes, because it would be too much right now for us.
That makes perfect sense. Okay. Yeah, you touched on this a little earlier, how your products are sold, and I kind of wanted to go into that a little bit also. Where do you sell your products? Is it, I mean, we're sitting here in your farm stand here. Mm-hmm. I know you sell them here. Other places, do you sell anything to markets or to online, or what's your commercial distribution channel?
Everything we sell is retail right now. We do not do any wholesaling because we can pretty much sell all we produce retail to the end user, which we like because it's just better for us. So right now we have 3 places we sell our products. We sell them online where we deliver. We have a weekly delivery run. Once a week, every Wednesday we deliver to the customer's home, right to their home. And then we have our farm store here where we sell. We're open every Saturday. And then we do 2 farmers markets, about 2 farmers markets every summer, all throughout the summer, and we sell at farmers markets. That's where we really got our start in this, and we built up our customer base was doing farmers markets.
Kind of networking and getting out.
And now we're getting into actually where we doing an experiment a little with FedExing our products across the country and on a small scale, mostly pork, just to try to during the slower times in the winter to do some of that when the farmers markets aren't going.
Okay. What do you view as your competition? I mean, is it the big supermarkets, or is it other people like you, other farms, or?
Right now, it's probably, there's other farms doing what we do in the area, but I don't really view them as competition all the time. It'd almost be more the big industrial organic items that are in the stores that are more the grass-fed beef coming from New Zealand that's a lot cheaper than ours, and that's almost more of a competitor than our neighbors 20 miles from here that do the same thing we do. So, but I don't feel we're comparing apples to apples when you compare those products, because a lot of the industrial organic doesn't have the same quality, I feel, as our product. The freshness, and the quality of the product and the welfare that the animals have too.
Okay, well, this is definitely a topic I want to touch on a little bit further down the road here. Some of these things you see in the supermarket, grass-fed or whatever, you look at the labels and they might come long distance, they might come from around the world.
Right.
And I'm a little bit more inclined to prefer local stuff. That's why I come out here. But okay, just a general question: how has business been going? Let's say over the last 2-3 years. I mean, what's the business trend? Is it growing, stable, declining?
I would say it's not declining. I would say it's definitely stable or growing. I mean, it was really growing, I think, in those early 2010 or 2000. It'd be the 2008-9 when some movies like Food Inc. and things came out. Then it really took off, and now I think there's a lot more people doing it. So we're growing every year. I think having more growing or staying stable for sure. We have a good base group of customers that we try to take care of first and foremost, and and we're seeing more new customers come too for many different reasons, and so I would say we're stable or growing.
Okay.
Probably growing a bit, and we're limited. We can't grow that much because we're limited by an 80-acre farm and how much we can grow on. So it's not like we can produce 1 million cheeseburgers and sell all we want. So we're a little limited on the natural aspects of the farm and what the farm can handle and things too. So we can't. We're better off adding different enterprises that complement each other. Like we foresee adding vegetables more and some other things to the farm to add. So
perfect. Okay. Do you find in general, do you get inquiries from people that indicate that they're more interested in the quality of meat now? Or, I mean, people asking questions about how the meat's prepared, what they eat or whatever?
It's a mix of the customers we get. Some are for pure animal welfare reasons. They're real concerned about how animals are treated, and they don't, they don't want to become vegetarians, but they do want, if they're going to eat meat, they want the animals to be well cared for, so we get some of those. Others, it's pure taste and preference of meat. Quality of meat, taste. The others they're big worried about the antibiotics and GMOs and things like that, and they want a clean sourced product that's so it's a mix of those three. I would say I can't tell you exactly how much each, but yeah. But in the end, if it's not good tasting, if it's not good, they're not gonna. What it boils down to is if it's not good, they're not gonna come back, no matter how warm a feeling they get that the animal's being taken care of.
That's a good point. It doesn't matter what it
says
on the label, or
or if they get a warm fuzzy feeling that they're doing, eating animals that are well cared for. If it doesn't taste good in the end,
what's the point?
What's the point? They may come once, but they might not come back.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's all. Makes a lot of sense. So could we just define your product? How would you characterize it? I mean, this is what you do here. Let's say the cattle. It's grass-fed and finished. I mean, is there any grain involved with the cattle?
Nope.
Okay. Organic?
We're not certified organic, but we don't spray our pastures or anything. We choose not to be certified organic because of all the red tape and the cost and the bureaucratic, let's just say the bureaucratic red tape. We prefer not to be certified organic. We feel our best certification is that the customer can come out here and see the animals, and we give tours so they know where it's coming from.
I often wondered, I don't know, maybe you know, certified organic, I mean, how is the certification done, and how is it maintained, and how rigorous is it? I mean, a lot of times I look, frankly, I don't know, but I look and I see certified organic on a label, let's say in the store. I often wonder, like, what's behind that? Is it really organic, or is it just, it's easy to make a label, but I prefer, like you said, to see, seeing and believing, whether it's certified or not. I like to be able to kind of hands-on and view it, but so you don't spray on your grass or whatever crops you have out here. But
yeah, we would we may have to use fertilizer on our row crops. Sometimes it depends on the year. We try to always use all the manure we can, but we do soil test and check that. But we never spray our pastures at all. It's where the animals are grazing. So, or the hay we feed the animals to in the wintertime. So we try to be as organic as we can, and I'm sure there's a lot of great organic farms out there, but it's almost more because the industrial agriculture is kind of taken hold of organics, and in a way we prefer to just have a one-on-one relationship with their customers, and they can come out and see, if they don't like what they see, they don't buy our products. So simple as that. I don't know I don't really want to spend $5,000 a year to have our farm certified
Yeah,
and then fill out a mountain of paperwork. It just, thankfully we have customers that believe in us, and it just would not be necessary at this point.
Okay.
So,
And
if we were selling to a supermarket or something, I could see the advantage of
okay.
being organic then, because then it'd be probably necessary to do that. So,
okay, perfect. Obviously, this would be pasture raised.
that's kind of what we call it, pasture raised meat. So
Okay.
we call it, pasture raised meat and eggs. It's hard in December to have pasture raised animals in Illinois. I mean, they were out running on the pastures yesterday because it was
Depends
frozen.
on the day. Yeah.
Today we have things all in dry lots in the barns because they're just like your family. You don't want them running around in the freezing rain and getting sick and things like that. So
pasture raised as much as possible.
Yes, we like pasture raised because everything's outside on pasture, and that's one of our goals of our farm, that animals have access to pasture as much as possible. Okay. Can't have them destroying the pastures either, so we want to maintain the pastures because they're what grows the grass that feeds the animals, so we're limited to how many animals we can have too.
Okay, sir.
Because the pastures only support so much.
Right.
So.
And sticking with the theme on labels and characterizing the product, is this non-GMO?
Yeah, all the feed we raise is non-GMO for the chickens and the pigs. So we always raise non-GMO corn.
And what about antibiotics? Is that something you ever have to use? Or?
Sure, if an animal gets sick, we would.
Okay. But
it's very rare. We're not going to let one of our animals suffer, die because it's they're just like us, but there's no antibiotics in the regular feeding or anything like that. Okay. Sure, there's times when antibiotics, if you get a sick cow or got an infection and cut a hoof or something, that you have to give it something penicillin or something, we would use that, but that animal would not go directly into the marketing chain of of our products. So
that's kind of the answer that I'd like to hear. I mean, antibiotics is, I think maybe there's a misconception about it. Like you said, if it's in the feed where all animals are getting it, that's one thing.
That's a big difference.
But certainly if you care about animals and there's a problem, like you said, with a hoof or whatever, you're going to take care of it if it needs to.
There's times when they get sick.
Yeah.
They're living, moving, breathing things. They get sick, and you can't let them.
Just like you or I.
You can't let them suffer. Okay. So I mean, you really have to keep an eye on that. If you see something that's looking, droopy and not looking good, you always want to try to use natural methods.
Sure.
Good animal husbandry, preventing the use of that. But if it's a point from letting the animal, just die, or if it's the quality of life isn't there, then you have to step in with antibiotics or we always try to use natural methods too, good animal husbandry and preventions. And it's a cold, rainy day out there now in December, and we made sure to not let certain things out. Chickens especially, they're not the smartest. They can just stand around in the rain and get wet and get sick. You want to use preventative things to avoid that. So.
One thing we run into, Scott, in the carnivore community is in the media there's a constant anti-meat drumbeat, and we kind of battle that in the carnivore community, and it's coming from a vegan aspect, and which are, you think, well, maybe the vegans are a minority, but they're in some very influential positions within academia and industry and even government, and they're able to make their voices heard. And also in certain studies, they amplify. There's certain scientific studies and they're weak studies, associational studies, that they promote the dangers of eating meat, cancer and blah blah, it's really over the top. There's really an anti-meat agenda, which, you know, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but so I just wanted to, with that background, I just wanted to ask you a few questions from your viewpoint on some. What we hear is, you know, raising meat is so cruel. I mean, it's the animals are kept in some torture chamber, chained to in some dark room, and it's just the cruelest thing that could ever happen. Inhumane. From your perspective, what do you see? I mean, is there any validity to that?
That's what you call the aforementioned vegans you refer to, and how they love to fearmonger is, well, their whole goal, first of all, is to eliminate animal agriculture altogether. So it's just not realistic. Maybe on the industrial end, in the industrial production world, there may be some justification to how the animals are treated. But when we're talking about our farm, the animals, the number one ingredient we give them is love the whole life that they're here. So you're essentially taking an animal that, like a cow that can graze, you keep the soil covered with grass, you're not having to till anything, you're not having to plow, use any petroleum to graze that grass-fed beef. It's just, our farm would not, I mean, their standards, they want to eliminate animal agriculture altogether, so they'd like to eliminate our farm too, because they would call it, how could you eat these animals? But the quality of life these animals have, it's just one bad day at the end. We're all going to die sometime. So and I would like to stipulate up front,
in the meat eating world, in the carnivore community, we care about animals, and actually I think we care probably more than the vegans do, to be quite honest. That's my opinion. We are in this, and we are, let's say, anti-animal cruelty, which may exist in some parts of the industry. It may not be the most. We're all for improved humane treatment of animals, and so that's kind of why I like to come out here and see what you do, and it makes me feel good. I see how the animals are treated. I haven't seen any torture chambers or chained up animals or anything. I see every time I come out here, the animals they don't have a care in the world. They're wandering in a pasture, just eating, you know, and having looks like a great life. So
they're our livelihood. I lose a lot of sleep worrying about them. You know, if they're okay, if they're healthy, if they're in pain or got sick or something like that. So, and a lot of farmers do. So, to say that, just that whole claim that mistreating animals is it's just not true.
Yeah, and actually we do. I mean, we can understand people's concern about that, and we are concerned about that. That animals are treated ethically, but the whole part about death and life is part, you know, one is part of the other, and you really can't eat without something has to die, and we all die. You know, it's just part of the cycle of nature. So, we raise them. They're domesticated animals. We raise them, and they do something for us. We do something for them. They wouldn't exist without us.
They help heal the land too, and take care of the land. It's a very sustainable. We grow row crops here. The manure from the animals helps grow the row crops, which we harvest and then feed back to the animals, and we use for bedding. So it's a real sustainable process. People have been doing it for centuries. Farmers have been doing it for many centuries. So if they're gonna want to go, you know, without eating meat, okay, so what are they going to live on? Are they going to live on a ton of industrial produced vegetables that uses a ton of petroleum, a ton of trucking to ship them around? You know, are they going to live on avocados and be clear-cutting rainforests to grow these avocados to get protein, or you know, it's just the small family farm here in the Midwest is can be such a nice little sustainable enterprise which is both good for the environment, good for families, good for the local rural economy, and that's how I feel about eating meat and animals.
And that's what we try to point out to the vegans and to the world, that okay, you cannot eat meat, but don't think that doesn't come without a cost. I mean, like you mentioned, the petroleum that's used to grow row crops or to transport you know, fruit from South America up here, you know, out of season in the winter. I mean, yeah. and clear cutting forests and clear cutting the land in order to grow the crops. I mean, there's death involved in that. I mean, you're kind of, in one way, I know animal habitat is is affected, and certain animals, just by the process, just by the farm implements out there, certain animals get caught up in it and die. So, I mean, we just want the vegans to face up to the fact that there's some death involved in all of it, and there's some use of fossil fuels involved in all of it, and there's environmental. There's no just living, you know, environmentally free. So just let's be honest about it. That's all we're hoping to. Yeah. So you veered into the environmental aspects, and that was my next topic. And you mentioned what you do here is sustainable. I mean, these animals, these ruminants that are grazing, they're actually preserving soil, correct? I mean, they're
on the grasslands. Half of our farm is always in permanent pasture, so that really helps. You know, we're not having to till that, and you know, there's soil erosion and wind loss, and when you till the ground and all those things. We try to make it as sustainable and as possible and low impact, and we're always trying to leave it better, the farm better. We're always planting trees, and we do lots of things. And most farmers do care about their land and try to be good stewards of it, whether it's with crop rotation or things like that.
What's your livelihood?
Yeah, it's your livelihood. You know, they want to pass it down to the next generation.
And from what I've read, the grazing ruminants actually add carbon to the soil and maintain the soil and water. A lot of water is maintained rather than just running off. You know, you're maintaining the water, nutrients, carbon in your soil.
Exactly, because it goes back to what was here before us. You know, there was buffalo grazing. Wolves came and killed the buffalo. So it's just the cycle of life, and yeah, there's a big difference in a small grazing operation like ours to an industrial feedlot that has, you know, 500 or 1,000 cows in a lot, feeding them heavy, dependent on, you know, on grains and things like that. So.
And we've touched on grazing a little bit. Is there a certain strategy for how you move them around, or
there is, and we're always trying to get better at that. I wouldn't say we're the best grazers in the world, but we do our best. We always try to have, what I always try to do is have a couple pastures resting at one time.
Okay.
So we can move them onto that eventually, and then if we do end up, pigs can be particularly harmful on pastures. So, like this year, our pig pasture pretty much was destroyed, and we're going to have to replant that this spring. So, we always try to keep a cover on the land and give it a chance to rest. You know.
Okay.
If we do overgraze an area, then we'll have to let it rest even longer. We'll pay for that down the road, but we always have to be resting or moving them, and that's part of the reason we take some of the cows off the farm in the summer to rental pastures, is to give it a little break here.
A break.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What about, I get just a question from my own, the animal waste. I mean, is it an issue? Is it an environmental issue at all? I mean,
not for the small amount of animals we have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that small, but we try to compost it, and we run soil tests. We just did soil tests, and our phosphorus levels for the pigs we have here. You know, phosphorus is generally a problem on pig farms. There's too much of it in the soil, and we were not even near. We were almost. We could have used more, so we're not over polluting at all or anything. And then, so we look at it as more of an advantage. It's an asset. The compost, the manure is an asset. It's what grows the crops the next year. It may take longer because it's got to break down and everything. Sure. You know, it takes years. You can't just have a farm and say a year later you're gonna. It takes years to see the results, but. So we look at the compost as an advantage. It's a challenge in the move in the winter and a lot of work to clean up after the animals this time of year. It's a big job.
So in an operation on your scale, it's an advantage actually because you're composting it. And
we compost what we can and what we don't, we spread on the fields. And yeah, we look at it as an advantage. I wouldn't give it away. We want it to stay here.
You want it, yeah. Okay. Touch on this a little bit. What would you say are the biggest challenges for a small farm, given that we're here in northern Illinois? I mean, I imagine climate is one of them.
Climate's a challenge here. It can be hard.
Because it can be hot, it can be cold, it can be all over the map. It can be brutal winter, it can be pretty warm, and it can be wet. I mean...
climate's a challenge, but like a wise farmer told me once, if you figure out the weather... Farmers have been fighting the weather for centuries, and that's just part of it. And complaining about it isn't going to do good. But the climate is a challenge. The weather is a challenge. But we try to, we try to work with it the best we can. You know, we try to be ready for things, see things coming, and we have good buildings for the animals, and you do the best you can. We're diversified, so. That's good. I mean, if our corn crop were to fail, that we fed the animals, it wouldn't be the end of the world. So we're diversified pretty good. So yeah.
What about in terms of regulations? I mean, are you hit with regulations either from a federal or a state level or county? I mean,
more of it would be the lack of infrastructure in the state for small farms. Like years ago there was only one poultry processor, and we had to drive 230 miles to have a chicken processed. So that was a real challenge. It's just a lack of infrastructure now.
Is that the
regulations are a bit challenging. That's a state thing, and there's been a few open since then. There's a lot of help for farmers out there from the USDA and things like that. So farming's challenging in itself. Yeah. The marketing part is very challenging too, and I guess my point is one of the biggest problems. It's more of a challenge here in Illinois is the unfriendly business environment and the taxes and everything. Because the fact we're running a small business too. The workman's comp issue, and it's such an unfriendly state for small business and your tax
business of any kind.
Any kind. Yeah. So that just throw that on the farming, and you got yourself a big challenge. So it's more of a state problem. Okay. A poorly run state problem.
Not necessarily farmers, but just I can agree with you on that.
We should really move our operation. So we can't do that because we've been here and it's taken so much. So we love it here.
That's why I'm out here.
But there are regulations, like you can't with the meat and things. All our meat has to be processed at a USDA plant. I really couldn't butcher a cow here and take it to a farmer's market and sell it even if I wanted to. Okay. That doesn't really affect me because I have no intention of wanting to do that. So there are regulations to it, but we just work with what we can and do the best with what we can.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the processor you mentioned you use, they're all USDA.
All USDA has to be.
Has to be.
So has to be, and we drive miles, search out the best ones we think. We use good ones, so we pick the best ones we think and we use them. So
Just a general question. What would you say is maybe one or two of the biggest misconceptions that the public has about small farming or farming in general? I mean,
well, the old, that farmers are a bunch of dumb, redneck hillbillies or whatever. There's always that. I don't know if we'll ever get rid of that. And farming is so complex because you're dealing with nature and growing of crops and dealing with animals. Then you're dealing with business aspects and small business. Anyone who owns a small business can testify to how much work goes into running a small business, the endless hours, and you throw that along with farming, so you kind of got a double. It's just as hard. So I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, you did. I mean, it's funny. I'm a carnivore. I call myself a carnivore, and we're in let's say a meat eating community or meat friendly community. I didn't think so much about farming before I really went heavy into the meat, and now going down this path, I think about it more. I think about farming. I think about soil. I think about the environment, and it's like a kind of a voyage of discovery. And I would have to say I've had some misconceptions you maybe dispelled. Once you look into it, and then you see how complex it is.
It's very complex, and
it is complex, and it isn't just some dumb people. Here's an animal. I mean, it's
very complex. There's a lot to it.
Working right directly with the elements and nature and animals, and
then the small business part of it too. You got to be a good businessman, and
to survive it. You guys been since 2005 and been doing it. Are there just some general? We'll wrap up with some general questions. What would you like to remind people about, or tell in terms of what are the positive aspects of a small farm to the community or to the world at large?
Small farms are just so important. America was really built around small farms, that expansion west and small homesteaded places, and they're just so important for the rural community and for America. I feel with the jobs they provide and the great products they can produce and feed the country. So
it's sort of like the backbone.
It is the backbone, and the farms are getting so big now that it's kind of sad because small farms are just one of America's, the U.S.'s biggest assets. They're just they can be sustainable. They can be really important economically for rural areas, creating jobs and a quality of life. A great quality of life. It's not for everybody, but it's just a wonderful quality of life. It's a wonderful life, a wonderful quality. It's hard. It has its ups and downs, just like everything in life. But it's just a wonderful, wonderful, special. Small farms are just so special that.
At the end of the day, it's satisfying.
It's very satisfying. It's hard, and sometimes you want to throw in the towel and get a job in town.
Not deal with it.
Not going to happen, no.
If there were one aspect of this lifestyle that you have that you could change, what would it be?
Well, maybe if the climate around here was like San Diego or something.
San Diego,
it'd be nice, but I know that's not realistic, so I can't really. There's nothing.
It is what it is.
I love it. It's a lifestyle. You live it, you breathe it, you worry about it all the time, and you're always. Farming's a lifestyle, and we've seen people come and go, start farms and come and go, and it's really got to be in the blood, and you have to love to do it because you sleep it. It's kind of like a fraternity when you're a farmer. You go through the growing pains, and you've done everything. Farmers, losing crops, losing animals. It's hard to explain. It's in your blood. You couldn't imagine doing anything else. and I think most farmers would testify to that. It's just, I couldn't change anything because it's the way it is, you know. I mean, sure, you'd always want to have a better weather or better tractor or something like that, but
you want things to be in your favor, but it's not realistic.
It wouldn't be right.
It wouldn't be.
It's a special kind of
hardship is sort of part of it.
Yeah,
periodic hardship. Let's say.
It makes you grow as a person,
Yeah.
and you know, you have to just. I wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't be realistic for me to say to change anything because it's. I'm not. I love. You know, you can't say you love every minute of it because it's hard times, but I love the lifestyle. I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
That's a great answer. I like that answer. Well, Scott, that's pretty much all the questions I had. I really want to thank you for having me out here.
Thanks a lot for this
This
opportunity.
has been educational for me, and I appreciate the access you give me when I come out here and showing me things and talking to me. Thanks a lot for your time today.
Really appreciate it. It's been an honor.
Final question is, if people want to get more information about your farm here, or to contact you directly, or buy your products or whatever, what's the best channel that?
Probably our website or Facebook, HasselmannFarm.com.
Hasselmann, and of course, okay, Facebook,
We're
your
real active
website.
on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay. Of course, all those links will be in my video. They'll be linked to it. So if you want to follow up with Scott on anything, or I know they have a very nice website. A link to it tells everything about the farm with some nice pictures and fully descriptive. And I'm sure you can order online too.
Sure, you can order online,
yeah.
see our products. We have an active Facebook page where you can see pictures. Even if you just want to see pictures of the farm, we always try to put pictures on Facebook once or twice a week. And the farm website has videos and information. And if you're ever in Northern Illinois, stop out and see us.
Okay. Thanks again, Scott.
Thanks a lot.